Welcome to ServiceNow Tech Bites, bringing you an inside look at our products. I'm your host, Steve Miller. Today we're going to talk with Product Manager Caitlin Morse and Development Lead Justin Harden about a new ServiceNow product, Digital Portfolio Management. It's a new way to manage your company's apps and digital services. Stay tuned. Today, I'm happy to welcome Caitlin Morse and Justin Harden to our virtual studio. Welcome, Caitlin and Justin.
Thanks so much, Steve.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Well, before we start talking about digital portfolio management, maybe you could tell our listeners a little bit about what you do here at ServiceNow. Caitlin?
I am a product manager within the IT service management team, and I own the digital portfolio management product, in addition to service portfolio management and another product we call Service Builder.
Oh, so you're busy. How long have you been here at ServiceNow?
I've been here for coming up, I think, on 5 years. It's kind of hard to remember. I actually joined through an acquisition, and I started on the experience side of things as a UX researcher. And then I recently moved over to the product space about 2.5 years ago.
And how about when you're not at work? What do you like to do?
Oh man, I love riding my bike. That's probably one of my favorite things to do. I used to race before I had a baby. And so now that I have a baby, that takes up a lot of my time.
Well, that sounds fun. And how about you, Justin? What's your role here at ServiceNow?
Yeah, hi. I'm a development engineering manager, and I lead the team that is building digital portfolio management.
Okay, and how long have you been here?
I've been here for about 2 years, and it was interesting because after 10 days in the office, it's when COVID hit and we all got sent home to work from home. And so not a lot of in-office time, but about 2 years here at ServiceNow.
Okay, yeah, I was just going to ask if you'd actually had a chance to be in a facility or meet some of your workmates. Sounds like not so much.
Yeah, well, we're just starting to get back into the office. And so there's been a couple times where I have been able to go in and work in the office here and there. So it's just about back to whatever the new normal is going to be, I think.
Yeah, new normal. That's right. And how about when you're not at work? What do you like to do?
I'm really into the ocean. I'm a scuba diver. I'm an underwater photographer. I keep saltwater aquariums. I know all about fish and invertebrates and all that kind of stuff and corals. And that's my passion. I love to travel. Scuba dive travel is a big thing for me.
So do you live by the coast?
I do. Yeah. I live, 6 or 7 miles inland because prices, but go down to La Jolla Shores quite often and go diving there. And it's beautiful here in San Diego.
All right, well, let's talk about digital portfolio management. So to start off, for people who aren't familiar with it, I wonder if you could give us a quick overview, like what problem does digital portfolio management solve and what does it do to solve it?
Yeah, so digital portfolio management really came through a partnership between the strategic portfolio management and then the IT service management teams. We seemed like we were solving for the same persona and had two very different solutions targeted to those personas. And so when we talked to customers, we would always get feedback that the experience wasn't great. It was very inconsistent. They had to go to different places to access information. And so that actually led to our target persona not using ServiceNow. And so we saw a really good opportunity to solve for them. So what we did was we created, you can kind of think of it like a workbench or a dashboard that pulls in data related to services, offerings, applications that person owns. And it brings it into a single UI and then pulls data related to those things across the end-to-end life cycle. So plan, build, run. And then we also incorporate things like risk and general information about that entity. And so that's really what we wanted to do with DPM, was to support that user. And that's how we've started about with DPM.
Okay. Well, it sounds like DPM is a fairly specialized product for a certain group of users. What type of users or what type of organizations are going to get the most out of it?
What we're seeing right now is any organization that has data around business applications or services or service offerings would benefit a lot from digital portfolio management. And ideally, you're tracking some indicators, right? Maybe you're tracking availability of a service or CSAT or customer satisfaction of a service, or it really any indicator. But for me, if you have business applications, services or offerings, or application services defined in DPM, and you have some kind of telemetry data coming in, you'll get a ton of value out of DPM. Like Caitlin said earlier, DPM does plan, build, and run. So you can also look at things like inputs, right? Like demands and different ideas through continuous improvement management. So there's really a lot to offer in the plan and build phase as well.
Yeah, Caitlin, how about from the product perspective? What's your take on it?
So we have a specific persona. We're kind of calling them a solution owner. And the reason why we're calling them that, because so many times when I say that to someone, they'll say, well, I don't have anyone in our organization that's called a quote solution owner. But we're using that term to represent anyone who considers themselves or wears the hat, if you will, of a service owner or a product owner, a product manager, or an application owner, or even like a service delivery manager, someone like that. Someone who has end-to-end accountability of at least one service or offering or application. And that's really who we're targeting. So someone who wants to see their services and apps in a single place, and they want to see data about those things from the end-to-end lifecycle. That's really who we're targeting and who we think will get the most value out of the product.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you talked about their apps and their services. It sounds like there's a couple different ways to slice and dice that. There might mean ones that they are personally involved with, and another might be that their organization is involved with. Can you talk about that distinction between organizational and personal?
Yeah, definitely. So there's if you're looking at a service record, for instance, we have an owned by field or delivery manager, there's stakeholder fields, business owner fields. When we're talking about someone who owns it, really we're kind of looking at that owned by field, but we know that ownership of something doesn't happen, or I should say maybe in a different way, it takes a village. So we know that there are many different people who are involved in owning, managing, delivering, and ensuring the success of something. And so what we've done is we've created this feature called personal portfolios. And so in DPM, a user who has a DPM manager role can log in and they can create their own personal portfolio, which means they can add whatever they want to that portfolio. And by whatever I want, I mean it needs to be a service, an offering, a business application, or an application service. They can add as many as they want to that portfolio, and then they'll get visibility and access to those detailed views of those solutions in DPM from that personal portfolio. So they have a lot of flexibility to see what they want and how they want to see that.
And then the contrast to that is the enterprise portfolio?
That's right. So the enterprise portfolio is really the service portfolio from service portfolio management. So the portfolios, the taxonomy, the services and the offerings, that structure, that's something that's typically created by the organization or by an IT department. It's something that's recognized as this is the structure of our services. This is how we're organizing them, either from a financial point of view or maybe from an organizational point of view, or just a simple way to categorize all the different services that they offer. We also surface that in DPM, and we call that enterprise portfolios to help differentiate from the notion of the personal portfolio.
Okay, good. So two different views of the company's inventory of offerings. Okay, well, we've been chatting here. You've mentioned how digital portfolio management, application portfolio management, and service portfolio management. Can you tell us more about how all three of them work together?
Yeah, I'll give a take on that. And then Justin, if you want to share from like the technical point of view. So for more like the business point of view, um, application portfolio management and service portfolio management, those are the practices of where you define and you manage applications and services. And they have like a specific table structure, and that's sort of like the source of truth. Digital portfolio management sits almost, you could think like visually on top of APM and SPM and pulls in data from those products and surfaces it in a consistent manner to give that holistic view of the apps and services that someone might own. And so, really, like I like to think about it as a visibility layer. It's not replacing either one of those products.
It's just bringing stuff together, like you mentioned when we started talking about it, bringing it together in one place.
Exactly. And providing consistency so that when someone goes and looks at a business application, the layout of the page, what is included in each of the lifecycle tabs, the fact that you can go find information from the record and related items, like that framework and that layout is consistent, whether you're looking at a service or an app. So no matter what you're looking at, you know where to go to find it. You can expect to see a certain type of information. It's not these like wildly different experiences that cause a lot of confusion and just really decrease the user experience.
Okay. Well, and Justin, from the dev position, what's your take on that?
Yeah, no, Caitlin did a great job explaining that. How I think about it is DPM is sort of broad, but kind of shallow, right? We don't go into all the details of all the individual functionality of APM or ITSM, SPM. But we do give a really broad, view across plan, build, and run. And what I'm excited about is we do that in a consistent way across the business application table and the service tables. And so it's not like living in two worlds. It's all DPM. It's easy to look at the state of a service or an offering or a business application consistently. You can go to the plan tab and it exists on both entities. And kind of see where your planning cycle's at, or if there's any new work coming in and that kind of stuff. And then for run, the same thing, right? You could get to see more operational type metrics. And we're really driving consistency between the two, ultimately trying to create a cohesive dashboard and workspace that allows you to take action on what you're seeing, that brings together these two different ways of looking at your applications and services.
Yeah, a couple of times now you've mentioned KPIs and metrics for monitoring performance and other aspects of apps and services. Can you say a little more about that?
Yeah, so there's kind of two different types of monitoring. And the first type is, of course, real-time production monitoring, where you're looking at hardware metrics like CPU utilization and memory. And that's not what we're trying to surface to our users in DPM. Really, we're trying to surface the higher level view, like overall, have I had any outages? And is there a pattern in outages? Do I see my availability missing my commitments? Things like that. And so what our users can see pretty quickly is where they need to spend their time and attention. The best example is right on the homepage. We try to surface things that matter, right? Things that you care about. And so you don't have to like dig through a big taxonomy to find an issue. It's there right for you on the homepage.
Yeah, so it's bringing up things like CSAT and availability, things that your users that are important to them, help them serve their customers better.
That's right. That's right. So if they have incidents on one of their services, for example, they'll see that right on their homepage. They can drill in and they can see what impact that's having on, if any, on availability or CSAT or any number of other metrics that they can define.
Okay. And Caitlin, how about from the product perspective? What's your take on that?
Yeah, so I think Justin really, really nailed it in terms of how we wanted to approach this, trying to provide a roll up of key metrics that really help the owner understand what's happening with their service or their app. It's not necessarily like a snapshot in a moment of a day, with the CPU. It's more holistically thinking, how are we improving? Where are we needing to further invest to improve what we're offering to our end users, or to other internal stakeholders, and giving that broader brush approach. And one really cool thing that we did was we introduced this concept of KPI groups. And so what that helps or allows our users to do, especially within the service portfolio, is we do ship out of box KPI groups, that to get you started, but you can create your own KPI groups that basically pull in PA indicators. So any kind of an indicator that you've already created potentially, or you could create a new one, as long as it has the right breakdown. So breakdown meaning by portfolio or taxonomy or service or offering. As long as you have the right breakdown, what we do is we allow you to associate KPI groups to one-to-many portfolios, taxonomy nodes, services, and offerings. And then we report on those KPIs on every level that KPI group exists. And we have this concept of inheritance. So if you introduce or if you create a KPI group for a service portfolio and you add it to that portfolio, all of the children of that portfolio will now report on those key metrics. So you can track and assess availability, for example, on every node, service, offering, and then all the way up to the portfolio in DPM. And then the other cool thing about KPI groups is you can create KPIs that are specific to an individual offering or service. We know that not all services are the same, and so metrics or indicators that you care about will likely be different. And so this is something that allows the flexibility to report on different key metrics depending on the offering or the service. So it's pretty cool. I'm very excited about it, and I hope our customers are too.
Okay, well, it sounds like it's, for one thing, the product is tailored to try and bring out KPIs and metrics that are the most important. And also, it's highly configurable so that users can focus on the ones that are the most important to them. Would that be fair?
Absolutely. We try to give a good starting point so that there's, less hurdles that you have to overcome to get up and running with DPM. So we do provide some KPI groups, but we recognize that those likely aren't going to work for everyone. And so they can be edited, or you can create your own fully, and then all you have to do is map those KPI groups and you're up and running.
Okay. Well, I wonder if you could maybe give a couple of examples, like a couple of different user situations, specific ways that they might customize things for their own particular needs.
I'll answer the question one way, and I think Caitlin will answer it from another direction. So if you look at the number of tables that DPM surfaces directly, it's over 60 tables, and it surfaces functionality from 13 different plugins or store apps. And so we bring together APM, financial planning, agile, change, audit, risk, compliance. We integrate with Alignment Workspace. We integrate with Service Builder. And so there's a ton of stuff that we can surface. And we do. We have over 250 different pieces of information that you can access across DPM. Now, what we're seeing is that not all of our customers use all of that functionality, right? Like they might use projects, but they don't use the agile concept of sprints. And so with configurable workspaces, one of the things our customers can do is go through and kind of prune out or remove temporarily the components that we surface in DPM that aren't applicable to them. And so that's a really powerful tool where our users can pretty quickly and easily have a tailored solution that's configured by them without a bunch of engineering effort on their part.
So they configure it by trimming it down.
That's definitely one of the things that we've seen. They can also add their own tables. One of the things we saw that was kind of cool is one customer really looked at their services and applications through teams, and they had a custom table tracking those teams. And so with zero configuration, they're actually able to go into the My Lists function in the list module in DPM and add their custom table and really get a lot of utility out of the box with zero engineering. Because ServiceNow in the platform is very configurable sort of by its nature, it's pretty easy for them to, add that new custom table to DPM, to create a screen that associates that with in this case, business application, and really allow the customer to navigate to the plan, build, run overview workspace screens that we've built kind of through their own lens or through their own custom tables.
Okay. Well, and Caitlin, what would you say about customizing?
Yeah, so I also own the Service Owner Workspace, which we are in the process of deprecating to be replaced by digital portfolio management. But one of the main reasons we even did that, and one of the main reasons that we are so focused on making this configurable and enabling customers to make it their own, is that you could not do that with Service Owner Workspace. It was so rigid, specifically with the metrics. So any kind of metric that a customer wanted to show had to be shown on pretty much every single offering. And that just made it incredibly difficult for customers to actually get real value out of Service Owner Workspace. And so we kind of started off the bat with KPI groups, which gave a ton of flexibility. I mean, it's built on UIB, so customers will be able to, basically take our pages as a starting point, copy those, and then make it their own. So they can really you can go nuts and totally change all the pages that we ship. But one of the other big things which Justin was talking about was wanting to just be able to very, very easily, like with a system property, turn on or off a specific section of content on a tab, or even turn off an entire tab, and then be able to turn it back on when they're ready to use it. So a perfect example is we've talked to a few customers who they're really focused on their run data, and they have that pretty much set up and ready to go. So they can very, very quickly get started with DPM and just show data on that run tab. But they haven't been aligning demands, for example. Maybe demands haven't been aligned with the services or offerings, and so those will not be showing up in their tabs. And so instead of having a blank tab, they were saying, hey, can we just hide this? Can you give us a way to just hide it? And so that's what we're working on now, actually. And we're planning to deliver that in our next release, which will be in August timeframe. So that's really exciting. And then, like I had mentioned, so oftentimes we'll ship a ton of metrics and a customer will be like, listen, I only really care about this one. Availability is huge. So anytime I talk to a customer, they're super excited about availability. So if a customer wants, they can trim out all the other KPIs and just go with our out-of-the-box availability reporting. And again, get up to speed really, really quickly with that particular metric. And again, they can add it to one service and offering, or they could add it to all of them. There's a ton of flexibility there. So that was kind of one of our key goals with building this product, is making it flexible enough to really support and meet those individual needs.
So if I've just installed DPM on my ServiceNow instance, what do I do next? What do I do to get started?
Yeah, so you just installed DPM, and the very first thing you should do is really identify where your data is. There's really two places that the data kind of keys off of right now. And the first one would be the ITSM Service Portfolio Management view of the world, which is all about CMDB CI service and CMDB CI technical service and business services. And if that's where you've defined a lot of your offerings, then it's all about going to the enterprise portfolio view, looking at the taxonomy, going in and just seeing that your services and offerings are there, and application services. One of the things that we're seeing our customers do is, like we've talked about this a lot already, but their KPI group set up. And before you get your KPI group set up, you have to get your indicator set up. And before you have indicators set up, you have to have data. For example, are you tracking incidents in ServiceNow? And if you are, then make sure that you have your performance analytics indicators set up to track those incidents. And a lot of these come out of the box, especially with the SPM, Service Portfolio Management plugins. So they may or may not be working already. And then each indicator usually has a nightly job. And so it'll run nightly. So that's the very first step, is to make sure that you have that you're tracking something, that your indicators are set up to look at it, and that they're running every night. And then once you've got that figured out, then it's all about KPI groups and mapping those to your different services or offerings or even portfolios. And then you start to get really cool visualizations. You get to see breakdowns through your SPM taxonomy, where you can sort of group different services and offerings together, and you get breakdowns on key metrics and that kind of stuff. So it starts to get really interesting really quick. And I won't go into too much more detail on that side of the house, but it's really all about services and offerings and application services, and then the data behind it. For business applications, it's somewhat the same. The core table is different for that side of the house. It's just the business application table. For that, we're looking at key pieces of data. Like the way I always go to business applications is I create a personal portfolio for those. Because business applications don't exist in an SPM taxonomy, it's easier for me to just add my business applications to my own personal portfolios. And so I do that, and then you'll start to see your business applications, any issues or anything associated with them. You'll start to see those show up on your homepage. They'll be in your personal portfolio, making them really easy to find. And you'll start to see, things like inputs on the plan tab, right? If you're using ideas or demands, you'll see those. There's tie-ins to Agile 2.0. Right. So if you're using epics or stories or projects, you'll start to see those show up for business applications. So again, it's all about the data, right? Like, are you as a customer associating the different artifacts, right? The projects, the epics, the stories, the sprints, the releases, the changes, all of that stuff. Are you associating those to your business applications? And if so, then head on over to that business application view in your personal portfolios. You can also do incident tracking and problem tracking and change tracking, and you can start looking at things like that are called deployments, which gets into application services and that whole view on the run tab of business applications. And then there is a lot of data on risk as well with business applications. And so if you're watching things like risks and remediations and attestations and engagements and all that kind of stuff, that's all there for you if your data is there.
All right. Well, thank you. Caitlin, anything to add to that?
No, I think Justin's right. Like, look at where your data is, and then go to DPM, turn it on, and see what shows up. I think that's also a really great way to see where your gaps are, and then where you can start to remap things, or where you would want to focus in the product itself, like Justin mentioned, either on the services side or on the business application side, or ideally both.
Okay, good tips.
Yeah, that's a great answer, Caitlin. Awesome.
So can you give us a glimpse into the future? Like, what do you have planned for DPM on the horizon?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we're really focused on ensuring configurability and flexibility to make sure this works for folks. So that's a huge priority on our roadmap. The other thing is expanding or building out some of our DevOps data as well as our risk data. So Justin mentioned we have risk on the business application, and more we're hearing the need to expand that to services and offerings. So that's also something that we're looking at. How can we bring in risk more holistically across the DPM experience? And then the last thing is, or not the last thing, but the other thing that I'll highlight is we are also working on creating a relationship map. So a visual way to see the relationships between services, offerings, business applications, app services, all that. How do we show those connections and those relationships in a really visual way? So that's another exciting thing on the roadmap.
Okay, well, Justin, now you know what you're going to be working on for the next year or two.
Yeah. What I'm really excited about is just because of the broad nature of DPM and really the holistic higher level view that we're trying to get to our customers. There's really no limit to the different data we can integrate with. There's so much awesome product out there in the ServiceNow world. And, we can bring more and more of it together over time and make this less of a kind of a siloed experience and really make it easy for people to see kind of what's going on in their business at a glance without digging through a bunch of UI. So I'm really excited.
All right. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything else either of you wanted to mention?
I mean, I guess I would just say stay tuned. We're furiously building and improving DPM and can't wait to share where we're headed with it. Really excited about it.
Yeah, that's a good one, Justin. So I'll piggyback off that one and say, we did our first release in February, and we have released a second time in May. So we're targeting a quarterly cadence. So this thing is so new, and we're always looking for feedback. We're looking for input on how we can make this better, make it more usable. So please reach out to us, find us, and let us know how we can better suit your needs and make this thing.
Okay, well, good. Well, we hope users will post questions and suggestions in the community.
Awesome.
And speaking of that, in general, where can users go for more information?
We have awesome product documentation. Please go there to check out basically getting started. We're also working on a video, and that will be available on the product doc site as well. There's also some materials on Now Create that you can use on how to get started. And then I always suggest joining the Digital Services Working Group, especially if you're a service-oriented customer. That is an amazing forum for sharing best practices, examples, collaborating, seeing like new things that are coming out, and getting direct access to different experts within ServiceNow and different product leads in ServiceNow. It's an exceptional working group to be involved in. That's Digital Services Working Group with John Spirko.
Okay, thanks. Justin, anything to add to that?
Yeah, one of the things that is new and not obvious is how to do configuration in UI Builder. And so for the engineering folks out there, if you go to developer.servicenow.com and you go learn courses, you should see a section called UI Builder. And there's a bunch of good training content out there around creating pages in UI Builder, around using components, and just how the whole thing works. And so if you get into DPM and you want to add some controls or change some things around a little bit, we're really starting to get some really good documentation on the developer.servicenow.com site.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Caitlin and Justin. Thanks for joining us and giving us this good overview of DPM.
Thanks so much for having us, Steve. This was really fun.
Yeah, thanks. That was fun.
Please tell us what you think of this podcast. You can leave feedback or ask questions in the ServiceNow community. For more information on any ServiceNow topic, take a look at our product documentation or knowledge base or our ServiceNow support YouTube channel. Thanks for listening.